balance because that's really difficult whenever I work. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Asking where I live, and I'm like, I'm not giving out my address.
We can get started. Folks will probably trickle in. Hopefully we don't have about 300 people lost somewhere in this huge building. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. This is the second neighborhood meeting for a proposal to place hogs on the Rigden farm property in order to control weeds. I think most of you probably were at the first meeting, but if you weren't, we'll go over everything again so that you all know anything that you need to know before you leave here tonight. That's my goal. We'll also go over anything that has changed since the first meeting. There's been just a few tweaks, and then we're gonna talk to you about what we heard at that first meeting so that we make sure that you all know what we've heard so far and can update us on anything that's changed.
Great.
Okay, so the purpose of hosting these neighborhood meetings is really to give the public a chance to learn about development. And we would classify this as development at the city, although most people probably wouldn't think of it that way. But development that's happening near them that could impact them. We also want to make sure that we have time for questions that you have so we can answer all of those. It's a great time to get questions answered because we have a lot of staff here who bring in a lot of knowledge and can answer a lot of things that you throw at them. We also have time at this meeting to take public comments. This is my pal here, the owl, Zazu, and he's recording the meeting tonight. We also have a few folks online who are watching, but just so that you know, he's kind of keeping track of everything that we say here tonight, and then I create notes to send to the decision maker on this. They should try to capture everything that we talked about. I will also go over any kind of ways that you can make comments in the future as well, so you know how you can be engaged throughout the length of this project. This is kind of a brief overview of the development review process. I'm not going to test you on this, but I do want to make sure that we point out a few things. So basically, a development project comes in when somebody has an idea of how they want to use land in the city. And they'll reach out to us and say, hey, I got this idea. And we usually schedule them for what we call a conceptual review, which is kind of like a free consultation almost. They can come to us, they don't have to pay fees, and we'll give them some feedback on their ideas. After that, if they'd like to actually come and do the full development review, a lot of times we will require this neighborhood meeting. So we hosted their first neighborhood meeting 2-3 months ago. December last year, end of last year. It's like almost towards the end of last year. And for this project, we actually required 2. So we're here again tonight to talk a little bit more. The second neighborhood meeting actually does happen after submittal. So the applicant has submitted some documents to us about their project, and we have been reviewing it. We went ahead and scheduled this next neighborhood meeting just so we can continue to keep you all up to date. The next kind of step on this process will be approving this land use code or this land use application. This is an addition of permitted use, meaning that this land use, the grazing of hogs, isn't actually an allowed land use in that zone district, but we do have flexibility within our code to kind of make exceptions in specific circumstances if they meet some very specific requirements. And so
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Can you hear us better now? It looks like our mute mic is working, but I want to check and see if folks are able to hear us.
I can hear you
Now
now.
I can.
Thank you so much. Sweet. Technology. We have a variety of city staff involved in this project. We have a planner. Jill is the planner. She was not able to be here last time, so I'm excited for her to be here. We also have, I brought somebody from our zoning enforcement team who can talk a little bit about how he regulates things like noise and odor, which were kind of the top things that we heard last time. So we have, again, lots of people to answer questions. Myself, I'm the neighborhood development liaison. So if you want to get connected to this project in the future anyway, I'll be the person to know. I do have a document you guys can take home in the evening that has my email on it. I'll put it up on the slides before you leave here too. If you want to send me a comment or reach out with any questions after tonight. Let's see how many more slides Jill put in here.
It's kind of what you already said.
Yeah, Jill likes to make teeny tiny adjustments to slides. Okay. Before we move forward, just to make sure that I get this in before we start kind of moving forward in the meeting, I do have some ground rules. It's a little bit less stringent when there's fewer people in the room, but I do want to make sure that we're leaving here by 7:30 because people are taking time out of their life to be here tonight. So my request for you all, especially folks in the room, is to raise their hand before they speak. Just because I don't want the people online to feel like they're being left out by the conversation. I will also just be super clear. We love difference of opinion. This is kind of what the meeting is for. So if you have difference of opinion or you have things you want to bring up, you are more than welcome to bring those up here. I will not allow folks to critique people on their identities in my neighborhood. And then, you know, I think that probably most of you will have several things that they'd like to ask. Depending on time, I will probably cut you off at 1. And then we will be able to get back to you if we get to the end of the lines, just so that everybody gets their time to ask at least something. Okay, so after that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Jill. Jill's going to talk about the project and the city's process and such.
Yeah, great.
Do you want me to run slides?
I can do it. Okay, yeah, thanks, Sam. Thanks, yeah, hi, Jill Beatty, city planner. Nice to meet you. Thanks for being here. The last neighborhood meeting, I actually had COVID, so I watched online, but Clark was in my role. So if you attended that, I'm the new Clark. Yeah, so basically here we are. You probably know Rigden Farm, and we're talking about this property up where the star is. Just to quickly orient you a little bit to how planning sees the world. We are in the low density mixed use neighborhood zone district. And there's a couple zone districts in this area. And you can't hear. Okay.
You can move forward as well.
I'll do my best. I do have a quiet voice. And then this is the property that we're looking at. So you're probably familiar. This is where the pigs have been for the past couple summers. Just a couple more views of it. It's about, the parcel itself is bigger than where the pigs will be. It's about 4 acres. The area where the pigs will be is just under 1 acre. And it's currently a park. So the pigs have been on the site for the past couple summers, or at least part of the season, the past couple summers. They're within an electric fence, which is within a larger hog wire fence. And the area is covered with kochia. It's a weed that has a seed bank that's accumulated to be pretty deep over the past 10 or so years. So again, the HOA is asking to graze farm animals. The property is in the LMN zone district, and LMN doesn't allow you to have farm animals. So there's a addition of permitted use. It's a process for asking permission to do things that aren't permitted in a zone district typically. The land use code tries to imagine every situation that might happen, but we can't imagine everything. We never contemplated that there would be pigs eating seeds. So here we are. And so what we're going to be asking is, under these circumstances on this site, can farm animals be used in an LMN neighborhood to eat seeds for a few years? And we're going to be especially looking at the management plan that the applicant is putting together to see how that addresses concerns that we might reasonably have for this type of neighborhood. This got thrown in again there. Okay, so like Em said, this is the APU process. We're here at the second neighborhood meeting. We've had our first neighborhood meeting. The applicant submitted an application. After this, he'll submit another round of the application with edits, and we kind of go back and forth doing that until we feel like the application is as far as it's going to get. And then we bring it to our decision makers. And actually, for this kind of project, we really try to get as much public participation as possible because it is this additional permitted use. So first, it'll be heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they'll give a recommendation to City Council. City Council can take the recommendation or not, but City Council is the final decision maker. So you guys are going to be famous. Yes, and there's, like I said, there's just a lot of opportunities built into this process to hear the public and to make sure that we're in conversation, especially early on. It's really designed to be a collaborative dialogue. And then, right, so I just want to address that we had the first neighborhood meeting and we had some feedback that we've heard, and I kind of want to go over it with you to make sure that you know we heard what we heard and to make sure we're capturing it accurately. So a couple steps, and I'm going to go through this step by step because it's important. Okay, so we heard concerns at the first neighborhood meeting. They included the noise and smell of the pigs, especially in your homes. We heard concerns about the welfare of the pigs, turning the neighborhood into a test experiment. We heard that there's a lot of concern that pigs are the only real viable option to remove the seeds from the site. Some people were worried that the pigs might not be effective at actually removing those seeds. And some people were worried about waste and runoff from the site. We also heard excitement about the idea. Some people felt that it was an innovative, eco-friendly method of weed control. Some people were pleased that the HOA was taking a longer-term view of the problem and solution, not just thinking out 2 years into the future, but more like 10 or 20. People were excited about the water conservation opportunities that putting in native grasses provides. Some people just sort of generally supported the proposal. Some people are excited about the pigs. Little personal petting zoo. We heard a lot of questions. Why pigs? How will this work? Why not just remove the contaminated soil from the site? How long will the pigs be there? Will the program expand? Is this the same as a large-scale hog operation? Is this humane? Are the pigs dangerous? Who is legally responsible for the pigs? Will this affect property values? How much do the pigs smell? To whom do they smell and when do they smell? And then we also heard a number of other concerns that are related to the project, but not really directly related to what the city's role in it is. So I kind of categorize it as other because it's not directly related to the pigs themselves. Concerns around the cost and transparency, just how the HOA has been managing the project, basically. Concerns around the history of water use in the HOA, the history of weed management in the HOA, and just the aesthetics of native grasses versus traditional lawns. So it's kind of a global summary of things that we heard both in the room and in the chat online. Okay. And then, okay, so now we get into how will city council will be the ultimate decision maker. How will they decide? Here's a lot of words that actually explains to them what they have to rule on, basically how to decide. We don't have to read through all of them, but I just wanted to highlight a few. It's basically, is the use appropriate to that site? What will the impacts be? Will they be managed? Will they be mitigated? Is the use, it's really sort of contemplating like you're building a barber shop in an industrial zone or something, right? So there's a lot of focus on like the building design compatibility, which doesn't really apply here. But like a lot of it's about character. And you can find this all online if you would like, and we're happy to send out this verbiage too. So you don't have to memorize it all. Okay. So going back to the concerns, what the applicants have been working on in the past couple months have been addressing these concerns in details of how the management plan is written and will play out in the coming years if the use is approved. So basically the management plan is going to address noise concerns, odor concerns, waste and runoff concerns, and then it'll also define the project. So when will the pig grazing start at the beginning of the season? When will it end at the end of the season? And then how long will it go? Like, how do we know when it's done? Because it's, they're probably thinking 1 to 5 more seasons. So at some point they'll say like, oh, we don't need to go any longer. And how do they know that? So Christoph has been working hard at defining all of those things for us. And this is where I hand it off to him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's some more slides.
Sounds like it finally let go.
Is that right?
I interrupt this public hearing.
Let's just go home.
Actual weather.
Oh, I have so much seed out there. It needs to grow. Thank you all for coming. I do believe in this process, and I think the process is important. And I want everybody to know that I wouldn't be here doing this if I didn't believe that, like, everyone's voice matters, and that coming up with a solution that can actually work here to like fix this type of problem is essential. That's Mercy. God bless her. Yeah, exactly. I want to quickly go through what we had presented before. I need to go back to here. Okay, then I think I can go. Yep. So what we said before was this is why we think it would be good to do pigs, because the pigs address the seed bank. It's going to reduce our water use, even reduce the use of the soil of water. So it's not just our, say at Rigden use of water, but the actual soil itself can do better with the water it has by reducing evaporative loss because of the different kind of cellular native plants. And then also it's a sort of a permanent solution that is a lot more interesting to me than just kind of reactively treating whatever weed comes up and hoping for the best. This is a soil first approach. And although we have pigs, it's really about the soil, not about the pigs. We talked about kochia bad. Ooh. It actually looks better than this. Someone was just out there. You said you were just out there? I was out there a few weeks ago and I saw little rosettes coming up, but not as much in the areas that have been treated, which is tremendous. Native plants, as you know, have much longer roots, and so they can outcompete even kochia once they're established. This is Western wheat. It's Western wheat and something else, I don't remember, but tremendously deep roots. So last year we got through just about 3 paddocks but, and they're actually kind of back over here. And those looked really good through the summer, and then so far so good right now as well. Good means less kochia, soil's less compacted, and it shows better surface characteristics for taking seed, which we've already put down some seed, like temporary seed. Now this is from just last year, and this is the sort of, I guess you could say, bottom left corner. Is that an accurate way to describe it? I think of it as the bottom left corner. But anyway, right here. Very denuded of vegetation, but that's been disturbed almost 16 inches when we tested it. So they've really gotten into there.
Pigs go down 16 inches?
Yeah, the effect of the pigs goes down 6 inches. So what they do is they get under with their hooves, and that gets them down about 4 inches, and then they trowel, it's called. They use their nose to actually dig more. They dig to almost a foot, and then by stepping in there, they go a little bit further, and there's not a lot of seeds down more than a foot, but there are some, and they're looking for seeds and roots. And as you could imagine, as one of my favorite farmers, Joel Salatin, says that the pigginess of pigs is to dig. That's what is the kind of essential characteristic with it. They love to dig. They just do it all the time. And so they dig constantly, way better than like a Troy-built rototiller. Way better, right? I love Troy-builts. I have 3 of them. Pigs are so much better, so much better. And they let all the worms live. They don't just slice them up in half, which I do. I still do, but pigs are better for that. Okay, so this is where we started last time. Pigs are not dangerous. These are friendly pigs, trained restoration pigs. They don't in fact smell, is my contention, very strong contention. They are not expensive to use. They are not toxic, and they're really cute. However, we need to get deeper, and I'm happy to. So we added some details, and we didn't just add details like, okay, fine, I'll put that in. I think Joel can say, not just myself, but my botanist, Mark, has had pretty good input on here. I've got 2 people that work on stormwater management plans, Esther and who is it, James Hansen, who's probably listening actually right now. Thank you, James. And then Liz, who does the rotational grazing plans and a lot of our construction management plans, to try to figure out how we can do a better job to mitigate odor, to make them less noisy, to define what done looks like. So this isn't a blank check. Either for spending money nor for the time that it's going to take. To deal with dust mitigation, this came up in the city's from the city's perspective. To also food storage, to ensure that they both have access to food and that it doesn't become a rodent problem. There's a public health aspect primarily related to the concern of E. coli contamination downstream from here. And then, like, what if an animal died? Like, what would we do then? Would we just like sit there, or what would our plan be? So we have to actually think this stuff through. It's sort of like, I imagine it's sort of like a role-playing game, and there's like, scenarios that we have to think through so that whenever we're playing the game, we're prepared. Okay, so we're just gonna do one at a time. Okay, so last time what we said we were gonna do is basically harrow, straw, or harrow, seed, and straw at the end of every season. This is like a very typical way of handling these things at, like, we'll call it an agricultural scale or something. And so I think an appropriate concern is like, well, if I live right there, I don't necessarily want to just see that all season. So a way to deal with odor is to seed and straw each individual paddock immediately after we rotate the pigs. So these paddocks, as you guys know, these are small, right? Like this area right here would be bigger than one paddock. So these should be done in like 2 weeks or so. After 2 weeks, we're gonna pretend it's like it's the end of the season. We're gonna put that paddock to bed. We're gonna, break it down a little bit. We're the chunks of dirt. We're gonna put seed on and then put straw on. That will also help with moisture retention and will give a jump start to the seed germination process. Also, just to allay anyone's fears that like, what if this gets to be a really big, herd? No more than 15 pigs can fit in this area. If we had 15 pigs, that would be better because they'd go in really fast and we'd move them really quickly. And that would be better for odor. But we don't want to get them so dense that it becomes like, all that people are thinking about is pigs all the time because they're loud and that kind of thing. So that would also help with odor mitigation. I'm just gonna burn through these because didn't interrupt meeting time. From a noise perspective, we've already talked about the sound dampening shelters, which help them stay less bored. There's a couple more though. We have talked about this like grass buffer zone on like to the north. We set up our fence, we can add like a little bit more, and we can also make sure that when the guys come through with precision comes through, we can leave some of the grass around the edges, and that will add a little bit of sound dampening. Additionally, probably the big thing is instead of just having like a couple of boars in there or whatever we have that are trained, we'll just put in one boar. That typically means that he's sort of the boss. There's less like fighting, and that will hopefully additionally lower the noise. On the topic of why are there boars at all, the boars are really important to protect their lady friends. So no matter what happens in there, a boar will make them feel calm and protected and will fend them off from coyotes, bobcats, even allegedly bears. I haven't seen it, but I'm told that the large black hog breed can protect even against bears. Black Pete will be the guy doing the job. He's more than 600 pounds. He's really friendly. He scratches his ear to lay down and wants belly rubs. And he knows his name and comes over. And he doesn't hurt any of my children who run around with him. And even my 2-year-old walks up, puts her hands on him, and he lays down. And so he's safe. But just having one male will also reduce some of the noise. In terms of project completion, there were like a lot of questions about this. It's actually really simple. It's an exponential function where if you model out how the native grass takes over and displaces the invasives, so it kind of like doubles all the time. So you go from an entire field to then, well, it's logarithmic if you guys are nerdy math guys. It's like 60%, like 30%, and then from there it kind of goes on to infinity. So, but we are going to cap it after the invasives get down below 12.5%. Which we do all of this with what's called ocular assessment, which is, believe it or not, besides the fact that sounds like a stupid thing a kid would make up, it is in fact a nice scientific way to do it. You look at a 1 meter square and you assess a sample of these 1 meter squares to see what high percentage of that or what percentage of that is covered with invasives. And so right now it's 100% or more or less. And then as it goes, forward, we'll get it down to chopping that down into an eighth. When it's an eighth, then we're like, at this point now, the tipping point has been reached. And now at this point, the fittingness and appropriateness of the species of native seeds, of native plants to our climate, their better root system, right? And the different diversity of plants present in our seed mix start to have the upper hand. And now they can actually outcompete the invasives. So that's the point where we're like, trigger, we're no longer just going to plant a cover crop and see how it goes. We're going to put a permanent seed mix in there and see how it goes. This is something we've done to great success at Rocky Mountain National Park on the western side and on the eastern side, Yellowstone National Park, where we're doing this last summer and the summer before to great success, and all over up and down the Front Range, including here at Fort Collins, more than 30 sites. So that's a pretty good conservative way to imagine it's time to pull the trigger. After we get there, as it says here, we're going to put in the permanent seed mix and then spot spray any invasives that come up. So with whatever herbicide is most appropriate for the species. We don't do any blanket anything. We don't blast anything from the air. We don't take a boom over it. It's a little guy with a little tiny thing like this at one tiny bitty weed. And we do this with GPS tracking as well, if you care to know. We know exactly where we've sprayed what herbicide when. Okay. There was a question about what are the seeds going to be? What's your plan for this seed mix? So we do employ a principal restoration ecologist whose job it is to concoct such mixes as this. We also have botanists. We also have these approved by other people. And this was the one we came up with last summer and proposed adding. There's a lot of really great stuff in here. Usual suspects, blanket flower, squirrel tail, white prairie clover. And then up here is stuff that you might have heard of before, but you already have on site right now. Blue grama, side oats grama, buffalo grass all over the place, and Indian rice grass. All of these, it's already there in small amounts. So we're basically kind of taking what's there, making a survey and putting that back in there. The temporary seed mix is really, really, really dead simple. I just want you guys to understand what we're going to be planting, before we get to a place where we can establish a more permanent seed mix. And that is Quick Guard, which is trademarked sterile triticale. It's a triticale. It's the one that you may have seen. It kind of looks like wheat or something. If you've seen it there, that is a sterile hybrid that cannot reproduce itself natively. The purpose of that is to ensure that it doesn't take over. We don't want to plant some kind of bad wheat and it becomes invasive. So the bulk of this, by far, is this Quick Guard. Put in some blue grama just in case. You never know. Blue grama can survive in some wild environments. Purple prairie clover, white prairie clover, those have different blooming seasons. And so that provides better pollinator habitat. And then American veg, if we can get it to grow, we always want veg. Sometimes it doesn't grow. It looks like a pea. Veg is in the pea family. It has really cool flowers, and it's a nitrogen fixer. So if it gets going, then it's replenishing the nitrogen in the soil and helping every plant around it put down deeper roots without having to put down fertilizer. Okay. Dust mitigation. Two things. The one I already talked about, which is that now we're going to not have any bare spots except for the one they're in. So we're going to put down straw and seed every single time. But as a reminder, there's a reason why we haven't had any dust problems at all. And that is because we spray that thing down with water every other day. And so that's wildly ahead of any construction requirement or anything like that. And we're like way out in front, but it provides a better environment for pigs, is how this got started. But we're going to now institutionalize that and say, we will do this. Food storage. This is not actually exactly like what we do, but this is like something that we have done in the past. We lock it up, we put T-posts around it, and then we ratchet strap it down. So not even a large animal is going to knock the food over. Rodents can't get inside because the top's screwed shut. And the food itself, we don't just feed them the sort of dry food like you'd get out of here. We actually ferment it, theoretically, for 48 hours. Sometimes if it's really warm, 24 hours is enough and it's already starting to smell like beer. That fermented grain mixture has every single, let's say macro and micro ingredient that a pig needs to live. But if you just give them barley, they would actually eventually die. It is not good enough by itself, but if you ferment it, these amino acid chains get started. And it's just like if anyone's ever tried to convince you to have sourdough bread, they're correct that you should do it because it really is better for you. It's not just the bacteria in there. It's also complex protein chains being made, amino acids that wouldn't exist without the work of fermentation. Same thing works for the pigs. And as a side benefit, CU Research postdoctoral fellow, Hannah Athol, also a good friend of mine. I had a long talk with her about this 2 weeks ago just to confirm I'm not crazy. For sure, if you feed pigs fermented grain, you drastically decrease the percentage of dangerous E. coli in their gut for the exact same reason that people try to tell you to eat sourdough bread. There's E. coli everywhere, but there's tons of different kinds of E. coli, and only a few of them are actually bad for you, that are like, say, dangerous. So, one, we're feeding these pigs food that will help them not have E. coli in their manure, dangerous E. coli. Two, I want to stress this, incredibly small amount of pigs, which pales in comparison to the amount of dog manure going through our gutters in Rigden. It is a fraction, small fraction, is actually not even bad, this manure. Both Larimer County and the state of Colorado have very firm regulations on what determines point source pollutant. And they have listed places where you put a lot of livestock. And then they have numbers at which point it goes from being kind of like how the world is. Yes, there's E. coli, but whatever, to like, no, man, you're messing the world up. It is like 1,000 per acre, 1,500 per acre and above is the number. Right. So we're talking about 6 to 8 at a max of 15 per acre. So I just want to see it's 2 orders of magnitude less than what the state would define as dangerous. So just kind of want to say, scientifically speaking, people should understand that this E. coli fear is not real compared to this from the pigs. E. coli can mess you up, but these ones won't. These pigs won't. Finally, I thought this was in here. Oh, I missed it on the previous slide. Nope. It's about soil. Is there soil in here? From UV rays. Right, and stay in the like folds of the soil and not like float off and go down into a stream. So even if it were to float off, it's going to run into straw wattles, which we've agreed to put up as a matter of good faith to the county, to the city, sorry. Also a huge grass buffer zone. Once it gets in the stream, there's also lots of filtration all the way down the stream. So at least 4 ways of filtration: soil, straw wattle, grass buffer, and the natural contours of the stormwater channel. So that's 4 ways that it won't just get into the pooter and like put E. coli everywhere. Oh, that's the one I was looking for. Sorry. Yeah, I think I checked all those boxes. Okay. That's what a straw wattle looks like. We'll do that. If we think it would be good. I think after the first year, then we may literally test it. I would like to test the water and just literally prove to people that there isn't an E. coli danger just by literally sampling the water. Once we do that, I think we can not do this, but to be safe, we have proposed this as like, let's be really, really careful here. In the event that an animal dies and shuffles off this mortal coil, we will take it away as soon as we see it the following morning. So it's usually every other day. And our staff are trained in that. They're trained in handling large amounts of weight, up to 1,200 pounds we carry around in terms of trees all the time. And a sort of 400-pound pig is not a challenge. But I want to direct that address. Someone asked that, and I think that's a fair question. Okay. That's my pet thought.
Sweet. Thanks, Christoph. Let me stop sharing so folks can see this room. Okay, that was a lot of information, y'all. I don't know if I mentioned this, you probably remember from last time, but because we're recording this, I do post these videos on YouTube. So if you want to go back and revisit anything that Christoph said or any of the responses that we're going to give this evening, you can. Or if you know anybody who wasn't able to make it, they could watch on. So with that, I'll go ahead and open Q&A. Again, I'll have folks raise their hand. And then for folks in the room, you've got two options. You can use the raise hand feature on Zoom, and we'll be keeping an eye out for that. And then you can kind of ask your question by unmuting, or you can pop it in the chat and we'll go ahead and read it aloud for you in the room so we can get it answered.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and open that up for folks. I'll take one person in the room and then switch to online. Looks like we have a hand up. Yes.
Will pigs attract flies?
So the question, just in case the room, folks online can't hear it, is will the pigs attract flies or maybe other insects?
So, I don't think so. Here's why. So the pig, so the way the flies work is that they find like pockets of manure and then they put eggs in them. So if you think about like a overstocked cattle field with lots of cow pies everywhere, this is a primo spot for flies to come and lay eggs, and then it produces more flies. In the case of pigs, though, for one, their food is much more digested than the manure of cows, and so there's a lot less in there to like live on for a fly. Two, the pigs trample it, serve it, pack it back in the ground almost immediately, and they will literally eat the worms in their own manure. Yeah, they're indiscriminate. Whereas a cow will not do that. Even a year later, they'll walk around their cow pie, and if you've ever seen like a really great hayfield with cows grazing on it, where a cow pie is, because the cows will just, nope, they go around it. But pigs don't have that hang up. Yes.
I do have one person. We'll just switch back and forth. I'll get you in just a moment. Judy, I saw your hand up if you'd like to ask your question or make your comment.
Can you hear me?
You can.
So we live in the house that's right next to the field in that yellow house. And, you know, we haven't noticed any, really any smell or anything that's too bad. The one thing, not last year, but the first year, was we were getting interference. We didn't realize until they were gone from the electric fence was affecting our cable signal. So that's really the only concern we have. And I guess, I don't know if I could address that as they're setting it up or what.
I'm so sorry, Judy. We lost you for just a second. Do you mind re-asking your question?
Oh, my question is, the first year we had trouble with the electric fence interfering with our cable television signal. It was affecting our TVs, and we did not realize that was going on until they moved the pigs. And then last year we didn't have the problem because they had moved them further back on the field. So I don't know if that's something we can talk to Aloterra about when they're setting it up. Make sure it's not too close to the house, because we're in that house right there.
Thank you, Judy. I appreciate it.
For your particular house, I wonder if we could do that rotation, because you're the closest, I think, right?
Yeah, we're right there.
Judy's closer.
But a thought would be to double up the fencing and not electrify it on the inside just for that rotation, in order to make it like really, really strong. Because the pigs cannot get outside of the exterior, like our perimeter fence, even if they were to escape. But that said, I've never heard that before, and I live directly next to an enormous amount of electric fence. So maybe we could do a test,
Okay.
like physically turn it on, go check, turn it, you know what I mean? And then see if there's like see what kind of cable deal do you have, Judy?
Well, we're just with Xfinity, and it was funny because we were changing out boxes and calling them and trying to fix it, and it was just causing this weird little pixelation. And then when they moved the pigs, it all of a sudden stopped. And so we're like, I wonder if it was the electric fence. And then last year we weren't affected at all.
Is it like pulse, Judy, or is it like steady?
it was just a weird, I don't know. That's a good question. I can't remember if it was,
Because we can
but
also
yeah,
turn down the frequency of the pulse. Because the pulse, it's like on a 5-second pulse right now,
okay,
or a 3-second pulse. And so I've never heard of this before. So you stumped me, but I'm totally cool testing it out.
perfect,
Uh,
perfect.
uh,
Thank you.
I assume you guys have been in contact, but is it okay if I pop your email in the chat for Judy?
For sure.
Awesome. So you guys can get in touch and figure this out.
Yep.
That's really interesting.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
We had the same problem.
Oh, you did? Okay, so,
It was when the pigs were there
okay.
and we were constantly calling Xfinity. And I have another problem too about the straw they went out and threw around. It's all in my flower gardens and my garden and grass.
It's all over the place. It all blew away.
Anytime a windstorm comes up, it comes right to my house. And another thing, about the noise, you know, and the smell as well. We had to stop using our attic fan because to bring the cool air in at night. Because we had to run the air conditioner, which was an expense to us. And the whole thing about the mating and all of that, which you say it's not going to happen this year, but it's noisy and it is very smelly. And we bought the house as a resident. We didn't know that it was going to be agricultural. And we're promised a park, and I've got papers here with me. I can pass this picture around if anybody who doesn't live close. But this is exactly what we see when we have company over and everybody wants to go in the house. But they don't want to see this, they don't want to smell it. And we live out there and we can't do it anymore. It's been a very hard thing for us.
Yes.
The whole weed problem and what happened in that, it was promised a park. And then we were told that they didn't have the water to water it. And it's the fact that the city okayed what happened there. It sounds to me like there should have been a lawsuit against the city and the developer that started this whole thing. Fred Croce was pretty much the developer. And I know it was a dump and everything, because we lived there way before that field was there. But then when they raised the grade out there, it totally changed, because when we moved in there, everything moved away from our house. Now we've got the ditch right behind it. We're lucky if they mow it twice a year. Lucky. This year they did pick up leaves along there. I was surprised. But like she said, the straw that you put out there, we had bad wind, I agree, but it's all over everybody's yard, everywhere along there. I was there one day and asked him who he was, because he was taking pictures. And he said you didn't get a permit for him last year.
For the
pigs.
Well, that was the matter in question. We thought we sure did, and we have the paperwork to prove it. However, as it turns out, the permit that we thought we had for a 5-year program was arguably only for 1 year. So we had the piece of paper, the permit that we had on the one place, it says, this is what we're gonna do, it's a multi-year thing. And then on another part of it, it said, this is what we're gonna do in 2025. And so that was just what we thought we were submitting was a 5-year plan. This was an illustrative example of what we're gonna do this summer. And the city interpreted it after receiving feedback from people in the community that actually, no, we only have a 1 year permit. And so at great personal cost to me, I pulled them. And so that was that. And so my bad, right? I didn't do the permit right. And now we're going through this. I've submitted myself to the authority of the city and said, hey, I'm not like the pig guy. I'm trying to fix a problem. I'm just trying to fix this problem. And this seems like a way to do it. And the city told me that there's an enormous amount of work ahead of you if you want to do it. And we said, sure. Because, and I think this is important for people to understand, like, I'm a restoration ecologist, right? This is literally my job. And I don't know another good way to fix this problem. I think you're right to point out like mistakes have been made way before me, right? Or you or whoever. That said, here we are today. And so my job as a restoration ecologist is to try to come up with a viable solution to an ecological problem. And I really am, and I mean this, open to all ideas. And we've considered an enormous amount of them.
The flies that you were talking about, because they do land on the feces and they come out on our deck on our food. So we've taken away food eating outside. What is your plan for the people that live so close? I mean, we bought this in good faith. our
Yeah.
home, And it's turned into a pig farm.
Well, leaving aside the sort of last part there, I would say you have to take a long-term view. Here's why. The problem is not going to fix itself. And sometimes you gotta take a little bit of discomfort to fix a long-term problem. That's what I would say.
Problem up until now.
You did have an enormous problem.
Well, we would rather see this the dirt that's bare now than anything that we've had so far.
It's starting to come up all over.
Yeah.
I mean, you
And
can
how are
see
you gonna
it.
take care of the other weeds? You know, this is centered in on one weed and you gotta take care of the other ones somehow.
I'd like to.
Yeah, sure, please.
I do want to remind everybody we are recording, so we got your comments. Thank you so much for bringing up things with the cable television. I would never have thought flies and insects and such. So we definitely hear you. I do have a hand up online, and I saw your hand as well. Rod and Kim, if you'd like to go ahead and unmute yourself and make your comment or ask your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, we can
Yeah.
hear you great.
Oh, perfect. Christoph, thank you so much. Appreciate this presentation. Really encouraging here, right? A lot of work that's gone behind this and that's still to do. I do want to make a comment on the lady that had the interference, Xfinity interference from that electric fence. If she's still listening, you can write down this. Xfinity offers it's called an MOCA. So that's Mike, Oscar, Charlie, A as an alpha, POE, point of entry filter. And it's specifically designed for electrical interference, including electrical fences. So that you just have to talk to Xfinity and let them know, and they can put that filter. You can get that filter. I don't know if there's a charge for the filter. I haven't checked that out because I haven't ran into this issue, but that is a solution there to start with. And I also want to say, as far as the odor goes, now we haven't had pigs there in I don't even know how many months. And we live over on Canby. And, I don't know if it's the winds of Greeley that come in, usually weekly, right? That just smells like a pasture. So that can happen even there's no pigs out there. And I can say that several times, right, I've stepped out or I've had to shut my window because of we call it the winds of Greeley, sorry. And it's just that manure smell, right? And so that could be not trying to downplay that it's not the pigs that are close by, but definitely we do smell an odor of a farm, and it's probably once a week. So, but thank you very much. I do appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, a comment on my friend's observation about what they expected when they moved in here. And yes, I was also a resident who came here in the era when there was green grass in all of our common spaces. And I think it might be important to point out that it is our HOA that is doing the application. They could have sued the city when the city instantly decided to triple our water rates for what we were spending on to keep our area green. They could have paid that and our assessments annually to keep this green. But as part of the longer term view, I think they considered everything, including all of the possible pros and cons. And this is the path that they have chosen to take it. Certainly we can bring these up as part of the city council deliberations as far as mitigation and making this work for everybody in a common way. But I wanted to say that I think the arguments are valid, but they probably would have been better addressed first with our HOA before. And I'm sure our HOA considered all these when it went on this long-term process. But then the question, since we're talking about scheduling and having some sort of defined when this is done, is it going to be the city council prerogative to say, hey, we're only going to allow this use for X amount of time or X amount of space, or how firm can they narrow this down? Or are they just going to say, hey, everywhere that's LMN, we can have this permitted use?
Jill can speak to that a little bit. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So the way land use works is that on a particular parcel, each parcel in the city is assigned a use. So that might be grocery store, gas station, single family house, whatever that use is assigned to the land. And in any situation where it's not a single family home, we have what's called a site plan. And the site plan says, like, think of the grocery store parking lot. Where are all the trees? Where are all the plants? How is it striped? Any other things? Where is the air conditioner? Any elements like that? Where are the driveways? Where is the fire lane? All those sorts of things are on a site plan. That site plan is legally recorded with the city and the county, and we enforce that. A lot of times if it's a parking lot and a tree dies, we're not out there like surveying every tree. But if someone calls us and tells us that we have a dead tree in a parking lot, we check the site plan. This is the work that Justin's team does. And they go out there and they check, oh no, this doesn't match what it says on our plan. And they'll work with the landowner to replace the tree. If it gets too far down the road, there's like legal repercussions that can happen. So for this site, what this process would do would designate for that site that these pigs would be permitted according to what the management plan says. So if the management plan says, this will end in 2031 at the very latest, or whatever it says. This is what done looks like, 12.5% or less of weed cover. At that point, no more pigs. So if it reaches that 5-year mark, no more pigs. If it reaches that 12% weed cover, no more pigs. So whatever comes first. And then all of the things that Christoph is talking about with all the management that they're going to be doing, it's described in the management plan. And so if we get a call that says, hey, it's 2032 and there's pigs here, we'll have to come out and shut it down. Does that answer the question?
Yes, yes.
And you're talking about one specific parcel, right? So it's not like.
And it's actually not the entire parcel, because as you know, that entire parcel is like, it's got the rectangle part of the park and then it extends to the north. It's actually only for the part that's marked.
Oh.
It's like associated with that particular geography. Yeah,
Is that what was on the map on the letter?
that was on the map. Yeah.
So if you look at the letter, you can see the parcel we're talking about. The reason we have two options when somebody says they want to put something on land that it's not allowed on. We can either do this process, addition of permitted use, or we can rezone the property. Rezoning would allow this use in perpetuity into the future. And so for things like this, where we want to make sure it's not going to be something that somebody else can come in and do it again, we do this addition of permitted use. It's only for this one land use, this one instance.
Yeah, so it'll be really constrained.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else online that would like to ask a question? Feel free to put your hands up or put something in the chat. Yes, sir.
A similar question at the meeting in December. One, I have two questions. One, was there ever an alternatives analysis done for this parcel?
Yes.
That be reviewed?
I think it's in our original, management plan. I know it's on one of my hard drive.
Is it in your application at the city?
I think it's glossed, like, in other words, it says like, here are the options, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. And this is a question I had in December, is there been a financial analysis done? How much is this gonna cost every year compared to mechanical or chemical? In December, you were very vague about that. You just
Yep.
said this is, in your slide here, it says
Yep.
this is cheaper. I'd like to see some numbers. I
Yep.
think that'd be really helpful.
Sure, we can totally do that. We've done it internally. I don't know if we've put it in the paper. What I can tell you for sure is that it's not only like way cheaper. The more pressing question for me is like, will it work? Because we have more than a decade of evidence to support it's really, really challenging to treat this type of weed bank with purely herbicide or mowing. And there's not a mechanical option besides mowing because of the density of invasives. So it's kind of dead on arrival because the only remaining serious mechanical option available, because we can't pick seed heads or anything like that at this kind of scale, is to remove the soil. Soil removal for this is enormously expensive. I think we're in the $30,000 to $40,000 range to start off to remove it. And then you still have to seed it and maintain it for a minimum of 5 years, because that's just how native seed works. You don't just put down native seed and it's boom, it's there. You know, this is literally what we do for a living all over the state. And I tell people the same thing every single time. It's a 5-year process. But it could be faster. Like, yeah, it may be faster, but in general, it's a 5-year process. So you got 5 years of maintenance. You've got $35,000 worth of soil work, earth work, and then you've still got probably a lot of interseeding and reseeding every single year, which per treatment is around $6,000. So you're like done, and just immediately. I could write up a general sense of this. The challenge in publishing the actual numbers, which I prefer not to do, they change every single year. And somebody would come out and say like, well, we could do that for cheaper. And then you're having sort of a stupid conversation. Because these are very large differences. It's not, the difference is not made in like in the cents. It's more like thousands of dollars.
It'd be great to see those
Yeah.
differences.
I could do like an order of magnitude thing, like roughly at labor rates of blah, 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 this would take approximately, we would expect it to take. But what I would just say to the city, please don't make me get into like a long, stupid conversation with different contractors about how they could do it for different rates or something, because that's just like, that's not what we're trying to do here, right? And our rates are public most of the time. They're with our on-call rates with the city of Fort Collins are public. So they would know how much this would cost us.
I do have a sign-in sheet on the way in. If you haven't already, go ahead and fill that out and put a little star next to your name. And then I can get you in touch with
The
first off,
easiest
if we
thing
need
for me is
to,
to
or
send you all of them. Happy to do that, as opposed to letting them like get published in the papers.
What do pigs cost?
So the pigs are like rented, you know what I mean? So the pigs in this, they cost me a lot right now. But I can share that with you as well. But generally speaking, the cost of the pigs is actually the labor to manage the pigs. More or less. The pigs themselves, we keep them fed during the winter and ensure they're happy just because we like them. And then in this particular case, we've got people to manage them, and that we need to get paid for that. Yes,
What about our home values? You mentioned our home values have already gone down.
I don't think your home values have gone down. Did I say that?
That's, yes, you did. You told me I was the closest one to the pigs and my home values have gone down. And we got an evaluation from the city and they had gone down quite a bit.
I think home values is a challenging discussion because there are a lot of different factors. I think a lot of people have seen their home values go down a little bit this year, and it's really hard to say what's going on there. I would also say that the land use code, one of the things that it doesn't touch on a whole lot is home values. So I think that's a decent discussion for an HOA to have. Make sure that they're protecting their members. The city's gonna kind of keep out of that discussion if we can. I don't see any other hands online so far, so I'm gonna give you guys a few more minutes. Please raise your hand if you'd like. And then yes,
There's like 10 HOAs in Rigden. Which HOA?
Residential and master together. But although that's not true, sorry, who's actually paying for the pigs? Are we splitting it up?
It's the parcel in which.
Yes, that's it.
In question is in Rigden Farm Residential
That's right.
Association.
Is that the master HOA?
Yeah, that's a sub-association underneath the master association.
And it's both the master and the sub-association?
I misspoke. Our contract as Alterra is with both, but the pigs are only to residential.
I see. Thank you.
Yes.
This is Tara.
the company.
Why do they water both sides of the trail, north of the bridge? You know where the bridge is on?
If it's a question about HOA stuff, let's save that for a different time. That way we're not taking
What I'm
up.
getting at is, you say there's not enough water tap's too small coming into our subdivision for all those houses behind us. But you get up there where one of the last places where they built, there's a trail, the trail that goes up there. They're watering both sides of that trail all the way up to the end of the subdivision. South.
Are you saying to the south of?
It starts about the bridge on
Okay,
Chase.
so that's an HOA question that we can talk about. I can explain that to you, but off, I don't want to get off topic.
5 years is a long time in for some life situations, longer than it would be otherwise. So have there been any discussions to reduce the impact of this process on the people that are badly affected by it? In some forms of mitigation or dropping back from structures where people are really being badly impacted?
And just to clarify for myself, are you considering, what are the impacts that are your most concerned? Is it noise, odor?
I'm not concerned at all. I would love to see the things, but just hearing these folks talk,
Okay, so
I
fair
feel,
concerns.
I mean, I've been in situations where my neighbors have put in house and it's pretty fly ridden, as you mentioned. So,
They're the
so
house
I
works,
can,
yeah.
I can understand how they feel. And if they're particularly exposed, is there some way of pulling the project a little bit farther from the property, putting up some kind of barrier? Is there ways to mitigate the impact?
So it's really, really hard to do because by pulling back, then you're letting all those weeds grow. And then the minute you treat this land, if we pulled off the fence, then all of those seeds would then come into here. The issue, so the natural buffer is the sidewalk. On the other side of the sidewalk, you have pretty good residual bluegrass and mixed other natives that have moved in there. And then to the northwest, there's a pretty good field of buffalo grass, blue grama, and rice grass. That's pretty well established, except for that little, it's like a 6 foot or 8 foot kind of area along there that I don't understand. Nevertheless, those are pretty good. They're in pretty good shape. If we just leave a strip of nasty invasives as a way of like giving ourselves 8 feet more offset or something.
Is there any way of fast tracking those sensitive areas to try and get them?
This is the fast track.
This is the.
This is the fast track. And by doing extremely intensive grazing, really, really deep into the soil, we've already got pretty good evidence from the last 2 years that it dramatically reduces the number of invasives. I have been very surprised how it's responded already this year. That's sort of bottom left-hand corner. So from your property, like to the right, where the pigs did the most work, we had the most water. There's very, very little invasive growth coming right now. And my hypothesis would be if we, Lord, could have one season where we just did the whole thing right, I think that would give us a good shot at putting in the next season, so 2 seasons in a row, permanent seed mix. It's possible. It's possible.
Is that more pigs that you're talking about?
Right here, what I'm saying.
More than the 15 pigs or something?
No. It's just, it's an inherently conservative number, 5 years. So I always tell people it's 5 years. It does sometimes happen faster, but we're right now because
So this is the presentation we've heard before.
Is that a question?
Hold on just a second. Go ahead.
I'm trying to answer the question about how fast can it be. If you have the full season, it can be a lot faster. So basically, every time you start in but don't finish it, then a whole bunch of new crop of weeds grow. Each one of those little single kochia plants can send up to 14,000 seeds into the soil around them. You don't have to have too many that live to just push reset, and now we're kind of back where we started. So I don't know how long it will take, but I certainly think it can be faster than 5.
If we get a full season.
If we got a full season, which started right like about 3 weeks ago.
I do have a couple hands online. I have D Rains. You had your hand up first if you'd like to ask your question or make your comment.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
Great, thank you. At the last meeting, you gave us an example of where you had success. I believe it was Rocky Mountain National Park, is that correct? With another project?
With pigs, but with seeding, native seeding, yes.
Right, you didn't, at that time, it was not clear that you've had a successful project using pigs versus machinery. Do you now have any data or projects, more information that you can present us that this might actually work? Since the last time we weren't able to understand that this actually can work.
So there's a couple of ways to answer your question. This very specific question you asked is, do I personally have other projects exactly like this? No. So, but I also have used these pigs on my own property to great success in restoring a field that was almost exclusively smooth brome, which is an invasive grass, which I wouldn't prefer for our hay fields. And I've put the pigs in there. They disturbed it really nicely. We put a really species diverse seed mix in there. And all of the areas that we've intensively grazed have come back much more vigorous, much more diverse, with virtually no invasives, just in 2 years of rotations. And that's at our farm that we actually just sold, but a very successful example there. I think another way to think about this, though, and this is important, is that this is pigs' role in any ecosystem where they're in, is they disturb the ground, eat through whatever's left in there that's invasive, and then the native seeds from around it typically just kind of blow in, and then over thousands or tens of thousands of years, the disturbance regime is what allows that seed bank to stay more or less equivalent to what's around it. And the best example I have of this very specific thing is the use of pigs to control teasel in Boulder County. And I have had many conversations with the group who did that at Soil Revolution conference last October, just to make sure I wasn't crazy. I did have this exact conversation and they said, sure enough, there are many examples of this in Boulder County, but I haven't personally done those, but I have seen the sites and seen the photos of it working. Intensive grazing with electric fence.
Thank you. I now have Dee Fetter with your hand up if you'd like to go ahead and unmute.
You hear me okay?
Yeah, you're a little quiet, but we can hear you.
Well, the letter we received from the city showed the large semi-elongated site. Early in the slides that were shown, it was shown as a rectangle, and then it was mentioned later in his presentation. So which is it? Is it the whole site or just a specific area?
I'm going to pull up the map that we shared again, which shows the site that we're talking about, so you can confirm that's the one you're thinking. So it's kind of a L-shaped site there, and not quite the whole piece of land, but a large part of it, the 2/3 of it.
It doesn't even go to the trail that goes through there. It's all to the southwest of that.
Yep, that's correct.
That's going to be a limited time usage, not a change of zone. Is that correct?
Correct. That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, of course, thank you.
Make a quick comment on this strange shape. We have quite a few employees at Alaterra who have done very significant postgraduate work in this stuff. And they wanted to make sure that we had 3 different controls in place. So you have the actual control, which is like nothing done. Then you have herbicide application only to kochia, and then you have only pigs. The idea being that because there's some kochia in here, this is a kochia monoculture, and this is a kochia monoculture. By allowing this to be treated only with herbicide to the best of our abilities with our herbicide team, who are licensed, qualified supervisors in the state of Colorado, we would have a very good piece of data to kind of prove to everyone who is skeptical, hey, like, I really think this is actually working better. And also just, we want to be right. You know, if we're wrong, we want to know we're wrong as soon as possible and not do it anymore. So this area right here is being only managed with herbicide at this time.
And he's talking about the area that's not in the yellow, but still is to the south of that path, just for folks online.
That's the drainage area right there.
Yeah.
And that's a big drain right there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So thank you, Christoph. I think you're doing an awesome job, and I think this is just exactly what Rigden Farm needs. I was on the board, as I've said before, when this all came down, and there were a lot of decisions that had to be made, and I wish there had been more voices at that time to have this discussion. But now here we are, and we have to manage what we've got in the best of our ability. I think it's good, in terms of the ecology and all of that. I think you guys have done a wonderful job. My question is, would this city consider, since you said you're only doing herbicides, is that going to affect what's happening here? Is it going to spread into the place that you have now? And would the city consider extending that whole area and having that, because the site as they mentioned, the site here shows it all the way up to those other homes.
Yeah, it's a good question. My initial hope after the first round was that if we could get this approved by city council, get this approved being like the ability to have a permitted use of hog grazing in this particular location, that we would then be able to kind of like petition the city for the ability to get a permit for this kind of thing in other places. If so, then we would probably say, look, it worked here, let's also do it here. That would be the hope. And I think you know more about this than I do, Jill, but that's for sure out of the scope of this right now. The only thing that we could potentially propose is to say, this is the entire area that we'd like permission to do it in, but we only intend to do it in this area, and then maybe have like a phase B or something later. We could do that. I haven't considered that, because to be honest, I've been just focused on just the like little tiny thing, and I think perhaps I've gotten blinders on just to like, hey, let's fix this problem here. I think we should have that conversation.
I can say at this point, there's no other process for extending it. So basically, if in the future, if this gets approved and in the future, anyone would like to do this sort of thing anywhere else, they would have to go through the entire APU process again. If in the next round of review, you extended that to be further in the site, then we would review it with as part of this process. I think when we were talking in December, it was like, oh gosh, like there's other places that the HOA owns that have koshia, like, could this be a possibility? I think is what you guys are thinking.
yeah.
So that's why we had, at that time, highlighted all the HOA parcels. Just to be safe, we sent out letters to everyone in the whole 800-foot buffer around all those properties. But getting together a management plan for that felt like too much at this time. So this is the parcel right now that we're talking about. So this application won't extend beyond the parcel line here, for sure. In the future, could things change? Sure, things change all the time, but it would be not a simple thing, no matter what, basically.
That's too bad. Because if you have something that is proven to, eventually you can prove that it works in the 5 years, then somebody's got to start all over again, and that just seems kind of.
Yeah. And I will say, 20 years ago, did we have short-term rental licenses? No. Today, there's a program where you can, rent out your home to someone on Airbnb. Right? But the process of standing up that license program took an enormous amount of engagement with the community, and it took several years. So if this is enormously successful and there's a big demand to bring pigs to other places to eat koshia, could a license program be set up? Possibly, sure. But just to say that would also be an enormous amount of work too. But, it's a bureaucracy.
Well,
So.
with the city and the state of Colorado basically saying, no more green Kentucky blue in areas like this, you guys have got to come up with something.
Right.
You got to come up with a plan to retrofit what's there and be able to say, this is what has to, how we meet that
I
standard.
think that's absolutely true. And there's a lot of people working on that right now. Most of those sites have Kentucky bluegrass and not a 4-inch deep seed bank of koshia. So it's a little true, a slightly different situation. Yeah.
This first, and we'll get to you.
I think just reading the room, everybody here wants native grasses there.
Right.
My friends might differ on that, but I think I think they want it too. I'll just want to point out, I think this is the best way to get there.
Yes, ma'am.
It says here from Fort Collins, City of Fort Collins, livestock grazing. Does that include all kinds of livestock anybody might want to bring in?
Great question. Yeah, so like I said before, the site plan will really explicitly lay out what the plan is. And so as far as I know, the plan is pigs. And whatever the plan gets approved as, that's what will be allowed.
So it would be only approved for pigs.
Yes,
Correct.
ma'am. And there's a good reason for that. We're trying to disturb the soil, eat down the roots, rhizomes, and seeds that are in the seed bank. Goats don't do that. Cows don't do that, and horses definitely don't do that. So there's a limited number of animals that could possibly solve this problem. And I think it's important to say because I prefer goats. I love goats. I grew up with goats. They're great. But goats won't fix this problem. And so we got here from a kind of a problem-solving perspective to figure out, hey, how are we going to get under the soil and deal with the real root of the problem? So yeah. Pigs.
So this might be an HOA thing too, but how are people that really are directly involved and it involves their lives? I certainly wouldn't want my grandkids out there as close as we are and they hate it. And so, how are we going to get compensated for what has been taken away from us?
I don't know that we have the answer to that question. I have definitely heard.
We have spent all kinds of money keeping care of the HOA lawns now, getting to the point that we have grass now to the sidewalk where the trail is. And we've been all that block been taking care of it at our own expense as it is. And now we have to put up with all of this. Somebody has to have an answer because we're still paying for something we aren't even getting. And we're getting nothing.
Yeah. I hear you. I would definitely encourage the conversation between you and your HOA. We do have only about 5 minutes left. I want to see if anybody has any more questions or comments in the room or anybody else online, please put your hand up. Go ahead.
A quick question. What is hog season from what?
It's growing season. So April or late March, depending on the season. This year, late March would have been great through about November. So dormancy. So it's roughly 6 months, best case scenario, 7 months. Because more is better, but if there's nothing there to eat, you can't keep pigs out there. So, yes, sir.
One more reason why now there's not a lot of weeds growing there now. But one of the reasons for that is we didn't have any snow this winter.
That's true.
And we had a little sprinkle a little bit ago and I probably wasn't enough to get the ground wet. I actually went out and watered my backyard today. Now, I don't know what that's gonna cost me. But I might have a cherry tree out there that's gonna die if it doesn't get water. And I've got other stuff out there that's gonna die because it doesn't get any water. And I'm hoping that they'll water
The trees.
On our side of the trail.
Yeah.
Because there's about 10 or 12 feet from our property line up to the trail.
Yeah.
It gets very little water, period.
We have to do it.
We have to do it. We're watering it.
Yeah.
Just to grow the stuff that you want to grow there.
Right.
Speaking for the HOA kind of.
Yeah.
When they planted different things and they tore it out, they planted it again, they did all this. This will grow if it gets a little bit of water.
Yeah.
We haven't had any water this year.
It's been bad. It's been bad.
There's no accounting for the weather, that's for sure. Okay. I have a couple slides for you all just to wrap us up. So let me get all the way back to them. And this is just to make sure that you all know where we're headed. We went through a lot here. All right. So next steps for this project, we did 2 neighborhood meetings now. We have a submittal. We are headed to this kind of cyclical review process. Jill and the team are going to take a look at the application that Christoph sent us. They'll send it back with edits to be made, comments and changes, and make changes, send it back to us, and we may go back and forth a few times, depending on the complexity of the project. The information on what is submitted is available on our public records portal. And if you'd like to see any of it, like anything that you might have been interested in, cost breakdowns and stuff like that, you can find them there. I will get you the link to that. And then the next step is going to be a Planning and Zoning Commission hearing. As Planning and Zoning Commission is a group of volunteer residents who are appointed to the commission by the council, and they take a look at things and compare it to our land use code and say, you know, this seems to follow the land use code, or this does not seem to follow the land use code. And they'll make a recommendation of either approval or denial to city council. And then that final step is going to be that city council hearing. Both those last two hearings are open to the public. You're welcome to come and attend. We will send letters to the same addresses that we sent for this neighborhood meeting so that you know when that's been scheduled. It'll be 2 weeks ahead of time. And if you'd like to make a public comment, you can do so either by writing to me, and you can email it, mail it, drop it off. All that information is on the document that you'll take home tonight, or you can come to the hearing and speak as well. It's similar to any hearing that you might be familiar with. There's a podium and you go and speak for 3 minutes. After, yes, just interrupt.
So the city council meetings are announced.
I think it is.
So the way it works is we'll send letters for the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing. And then after that, you just watch council's website and you'll see when it's scheduled with them. But the clerk's office actually handles all that stuff.
Yeah.
Our group doesn't send them mails.
Yeah, so I do notice. Anyway.
Okay.
If you're not seeing something, you're confused, you ask questions, send them to me. I can help you. Any questions about that? Check online. Okay. With that, I will kind of pop this up. This is all the information that you need to send anything to me. I don't take pigeons, but I take pretty much everything else. We do have something to engage you all as you leave, and I want to kind of explain that really quickly before you go. Seth has put up some boards for us, and our kind of question that we're asking is kind of a temperature check on how you feel about the mitigation for the two top things that we've heard, which is noise and odor. We also have a board which has some more general information if you have a concern other than those two. But we do know that noise and odor specifically are pretty subjective. They affect everybody differently. We want to make sure that we're trying to mitigate it as much as possible, and trying to get kind of a better idea of how you all are feeling. The one qualification that I have is this isn't a vote. So you'll put your dots down, and that is really good feedback for us. We're not going to be going through and counting, oh, we got 5 red dots and 2 green dots, so we're going to deny the project. That's not kind of what we're doing. We're just kind of taking a temperature check so we can adjust as much as possible. So the way that you'll do it is we'll give you some little dot stickers. You'll kind of take a look at the board and it shows a radius of how far you are from the property. So we wanted to make sure that folks who are living next door to the property, we know those people. And so you'll take a green sticker if you feel really good about our plan to mitigate noise, odor, etc. And you'll put it in that radius of where you live. You'll put a red sticker if you feel like that it's not something that you're still concerned about, or a yellow sticker if you're kind of neutral or you don't know. I'll go over, we have a different kind of process for folks online, but for anybody in the room, do you have any questions about that?
And it's specifically asking about the mitigation plan that Christoph talked about today.
Yeah. So do you feel like it is potentially doing enough? Do you feel like it could be expanded, et cetera? Yes.
So are you specifically talking about mitigation, how we feel about it, where it is with where, how it affects where we live? If we're half a mile away, maybe we don't care at all.
Yeah, it
Or
could be.
are we, so, okay.
That's something we're trying to kind of figure out is like, is there a lot of concern kind of rotated around the site? Is the concern more generally spread across the neighborhood? So just, that's the reason why we had that, but we're all just also just kind of trying to see, if there are areas that there is still concern after we did our presentation today.
one of the things that we do after neighborhood meetings and when things go to decision makers is we kind of offer a summary to the decision makers of what the conversation was about, the highlights that came of it. And we've thought maybe this could be a nice graphic for like, oh, hey, here's where the people live that came to the meeting and here's how they, red, yellow, green, how they feel about it.
Yeah, without having you put dots on your exact address. So I don't really care exactly where you live, but it's helpful information for us. Okay.
The question online.
Yeah, thank you. For folks online, we do have something for you all to participate. This is kind of an interesting question. And I might direct that to the HOA or maybe to Jill, but Colin is curious if that lot where the pigs could be ever be developed with a home on it instead of a park.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's in the HOA's plans, which were approved by the city, that area is supposed to be open in a park, so that's what it has to be.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, no, we would not let a house go there.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Okay, for folks online, I have an online quiz for you all to take. Shouldn't be very difficult, but it's kind of a version for you of what the folks in the room are going to be doing. So I'm just going to pop a link in the chat. And all you have to do is follow that link and then fill out a couple questions for us. This is totally up to you guys if you want to do it, but it will help us just kind of, again, take a temperature check and see how people are feeling at this point in the progress. And if you have any problems, I'll stay on chat while you do this. You can also do it later, but let me know. Okay, and with that, I'll go ahead and end the meeting. Thank you all so much. We're going to stick around for a few minutes if you have any further questions about the boards or anything.
Right.
Yeah, have a great evening, guys.
So it's actually fine little seeds.
Yeah,
above
mine-
plants. How do they lick them out?
And then they spit out the dirt.
Oh,
It's
God.
it's very
Did they smell? See that?
That's what you're doing.
Say that I can look. And they like the seeds.
I wrote down your website.
Yeah. Challenging to work with. So I was wondering if you could, if you want to just put a little star next to your name, I'll reach out to you tomorrow and send you the exact documents.
Wow.
It's like through our database.
No, so you.
Did you, oh yeah, I know. That's right. So if you want to reach out to me.
Do, that's, and it's.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, have a great day. Thank you for joining us.
So the scales that you disturb and when they have.
Controversial, right? I mean, it's part of your job. You have to do small time there.
I had a neighbor, we had a neighbor that, 2 horses.
Usually you only get people who are using it.
And,
This one we're getting really good.
it would vary.
People who.
Oh, it will.
Great questions.
And there should be not just in certain species.
Which is very.
Yeah, which is very important.
I think this is great.
Usually people
No,
come
I'm
from
all
their
for it,
mindset.
but I don't live next door.
So,
It's so funny because my next door neighbors are, did walking to my house. We got the version and, they're 90 and then there's 2 of them. And then there's the young three with the babies and they bring down 2 pigs. And like they crawl around in there. It doesn't even.
Yeah, I kind of wish we could go back in time.
Yeah, she's like.
Figure out the time that-
Oh, no. And I was like, come on, it's the game. I said, break like this. I go now. He's like, it was kind of like, nature. You can smell the soil. You can smell the crushing plants. You can smell like a little kind of like animal food. It's smell like when you hug your dog. Not like offensive. The soil, it smells wonderful. It's just, I don't know where we came up with this unique idea.
Oh, you have to go.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
You're so
For sure, yeah, it's a public document. No way.
Nothing.
Oh my goodness. So Keith had this one. Yeah, he probably did. It's probably like, who cares, you know, they'll just water. If you have water, it doesn't matter. Right. I mean, literally, water fixes like, you know, an enormous amount of problems. But if you don't have that water, constant irrigation, constant maintenance, lawnmowers, and constant reseeding, well, then it basically.
Well, and I think too, that it's, you know, with where you, like you had the pigs here and then chemicals here, and it's untreated there, I think that's really interesting, you know.
I can't have people like, I know this stuff, because I've done it, and I've done it for 3 decades. My dad. It's like, it's just a stupid question. Look at it. It's like, here's the worst. You know, it's right there, and every time it always works, because they always disturb the soil, because they can't.
So once again, it's just their genetic program.
And they work 24/7. They just keep going.
Yeah.
And so if you put down seed afterwards, rotate them out, you're.
Thank you so much for coming. I'm Anthony. I'm so.
The thing I keep thinking is that you can spray roundabout
Supposed to.
EDT or whatever.
It's ancient origin.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong, right? You know, so.
There's some concerns that are impossible to address.
The cost benefit analysis is really like the most effective way to do this.
I wish there was a perfect solution.
I know.
Hey, you have to
There
have
never is.
a lot more data than just dollars. To have like a value conversation, because there's value in not polluting the environment.
Right.
There's value in having a long-term.
That's why it's like, for me, I feel like, you know, again, it's not in my backyard, but I feel like there's nothing to lose, you know, so.
I used to be that guy. I was just like that guy, and then I fell in love with this life, and I sold everything I had for this.
Des Moines, across Des Moines, yeah, across Des Moines, where the British.
But I was the goat. I was like, let's get goats.
Yeah.
And then I got told go find more.
I to myself a
I know.
Well, maybe not the whole ball, but it.
I know, they don't dig down.
That's part of the design of the city. I know that because I have a friend.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of trial and error.
I feel so good.
Yeah.
I mean,
But, I mean, my point is,
How many-
right behind my fence,
way worse.
we get that.
Like you get a lot that are like.
Is it that north?
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. And that's why you have to be empathetic.
Yeah,
Like,
me too.
hold on.
To my.
It hasn't been for a while. I think, yeah, I've tweaked some things. I used to not do like the purpose of the neighborhood meeting, so people came in with.
So it was actually the
things that, like,
worst.
they were gonna sit down and
That's the worst. It was
like, yes or no.
And we said, we have to do something right now.
It's like,
And we were like, what do we do? We're like,
people's
you know what?
expectations are.
Screw it. We're just gonna blast them.
So, we set expectations ahead of time, right? Sometimes it only goes to the surface.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I've been studying all that stuff. We're totally on board. We've done like native habitat restoration in our floodplain. So, so we're up on that.
That's what I keep saying. And I'm like,
Yeah, 1 year seeding, 7 years weeding.
yeah. But we've
Right, I think I
got,
share your frustration.
the ELC is the best example.
When
the
the
environmental.
water, when the city said, okay,
CSU on the
you know,
clear.
now we're
right?
gonna like
Go, use go.
5
Um,
times above.
Is the best
What-
example we have of like slow and steady. weed.
Okay, so what do we do?
We
It's
just
like, well,
want to-
convert everything to this.
Society for Ecological Restoration, SER.
Yeah.
International.
I think you meant, I think the word that you said was,
I will
it turns
be-
out that this is an experience.
Billions of
I mean,
dollars.
not this project, so
Over
to
80
speak, but,
countries.
but it's like.
They said
it's
of
easy
all
enough
of
to
the
say,
United
let's
States,
just
the best project
count
last
water
year was the
and-
ELC.